Hello folks, bit of an odd video this week. We're looking at some workbench upgrades rather than actual models. So here we have my current workbench setup, or one of them at least. So this is the main workbench with painting and assembling stuff, soldering and electronics and stuff is elsewhere. We have our workbench light, and down here we have a big extension lead with a load of stuff plugged into it, including the light, which is one of those magnifying jobbies. And that is all powered by a plug socket, which is behind there. And this is where the problem arises. So, if we have a look all the way down in this little hole here, if we go in there, I don't know if this will pick up, in there somewhere is a plug socket with a switch on it. So that means that every time I want to use my workbench, I have to reach into that, turn it on, and what usually happens is I knock all the boxes and bubble wrap and stuff out, and everything goes everywhere and it's very annoying. So, today's upgrade is we're going to put power onto the workbench itself. That means mounting this extension strip on the side here somewhere and running a cable through round the back and into the power socket down there. Then we add a switch in between that and the plug socket up here, big mains rated switch, so that we can switch the workbench on from here instead of crawling into the hole and knocking everything over. And then from there we have extension thing mounted to the side so we can plug in whatever we like and so on. Simple update really, but one that hopefully will make my workbench a lot more usable. So step one, I think, is going to be wiring the plug to the switch, I think. Okay, so I'm currently preparing to wire this plug up. I'm not going to show you how to do this, because if you don't already know how to do this, I'm not the person to learn from, essentially. This project does involve playing with mains electricity, so if you're not familiar with it, not comfortable with it, don't do it. Get an electrician to do it, or get your dad to do it, or whatever else. I am a professional engineer, so I'm fairly comfortable doing this. And the main point I wanted to show you at this point was this wire is all I happen to have to hand in a large enough quantity, but it's fairly thin. It's only rated to 6.5 amps. So I have replaced the fuse with a 5 amp one. That's important. Don't let anything downstream of your plug be a lower rating than your fuse. Anyway, onwards. I've got my plug all wired up nicely, strain relieved and all. So it's time to introduce the switch. Now you, and actually I, should probably use a nice modern sensible thing. That wouldn't be as fun though, would it? Because instead I've got this. It's a big old factory cast iron switch type thing, dated 1965 as its date of manufacture. Now it's not a very good idea to reuse something like this, so what I've done is dismantled pretty much everything, gone through all of it, removed any old insulation that looked worn at all, replaced that, and then added a load more on top of that. I've since buzzed through it with a multimeter, and I'll do that again before I actually turn anything on, just to make sure nothing that's going live that shouldn't be going live. Again, get someone competent to do this. Don't try and do it yourself if you're not comfortable doing mains work. So yes, there we go. I'm being an idiot and using a big theatrical thing because I like it. Probably should be looking to be a little bit more sensible with something like this, but there we go. So, I've got to try and mount that somewhere on my desk. So a bit of a midway update. Switch nice and solidly mounted onto the table here. some big screws in each corner. Power strip also mounted, that slots on and down onto another couple of screws. So now I need to get the power from the wall up to the switch and down to there. But we can see already that this is a pretty chunky action, so that should be lots of fun to use that to turn the bench on and off, and much easier than crawling down into that hole in the cupboard. So I'm looking to wire up the main light at the moment, and hopefully I'm going to hardwire it in, so it means I can get rid of this funky adapter thing and the Euro plug that came with this. So, just to neaten things up a bit, I've roughly laid out the wiring length, which means I have to cut that about here. So let's chop that off. I made very sure that it was unplugged before I did that. So this is going to get wired in straight to the switched terminals, but it should be okay because there's a separate switch on the light itself at the top. So this is never going to go live as soon as this is switched. It's always going to be switched off from up there. So yeah, let's wire this in. So the final part of this project has just been to tidy everything up a little bit. So I've printed myself some little wiring clips like this. And you can see now down here how they're holding everything nice and tidy. A few bits of wire insulation under here. There's no actual wire in here, these are just there to fill the hole where the wires are coming out, so nothing can move around too much. I'll replace that with something slightly better engineered to fill that gap, but these will do perfectly well for the time being. So the other question is, does it work? I think we can call that a success.